Hello to one and all, and welcome to my channel. I'm Charles Nathan, your friendly guide helping you to navigate the dark, labyrinthine swamp that is the modern British state. Today we're going rather upmarket and we're going to take a quick trip to the House of Lords. Specifically, we're looking at the meeting of the International Relations and Defence Committee that took place last week. They were discussing the implications of the recently published US National Security Strategy. Now, this is a public document and anyone can read it. You'll find a link to it down below, along with, as always, a link to the full parliamentary session if you're having trouble sleeping. First up in the chair was the Right Honourable Lord Robertson of Port Ellen, asking how the recently published strategy differs from that of previous administrations. And answering the question is a gentleman called Peter Ruff, who's a director at the Hudson Institute. Now, he does talk at length, and I've just clipped out a couple of interesting things that he says because it does speak to the wider issues that are going on currently in the world, and particularly here in the UK.
The NSS covers rather Trumpian themes that are distinct, I would say, from the previous government, the Biden administration. The emphasis on the primacy of the nation state as the fundamental political unit, focus on competence and merit as a rejoinder to wokeism, as it's been called in the US, a tight policing of the US border and restrictionist immigration policy, burden shifting to allies, revitalizing manufacturing as part of a pro-worker trade policy, and energy dominance rather than climate policy, which does not feature in the document. It also, dare I say, almost downgrades the Middle East from a primary theater to a secondary theater of U.S. activity, critiques Europe's political and social trajectory, and repeatedly emphasizes diplomacy over interventionism.
The emphasis on the primacy of the nation state as the fundamental political unit. That seemingly innocuous and almost throwaway remark there is in fact the foundation, the bedrock, upon which all understanding of everything that's been going on in Britain, the United States, Europe, Western civilization generally, and further abroad is based. Following World War II, there arose a general consensus that transnational organisations such as the United Nations, European Union, World Economic Forum and the World Bank, to name but a few, were in fact the answers to human suffering and the key to human progress. It was thought that following World War II, the nation state and national cultures were in fact an impediment to human progress. Fast forward 60 or 70 years, and now we're seeing the fruits of those assumptions, and they're not all good, let's be honest about it. This in turn has led to a resurgence of the idea of the nation state as, in the words of the report, the fundamental political unit, the cradle of nationhood, culture and tradition, which is seen as the true driver of human progress. So let's have a listen next and just see what Mr. Ruff's got to say on this same subject again, and then we'll wrap up.
UK cooperation along the lines that we've experienced for decades past. At the same time, I do think the U.S. push for quote-unquote strategic stability with Russia could lead to some tensions, and as would any effort by the U.S. to counteract quote-unquote civilizational erasure by critiquing potentially incumbent political forces in the UK. So while on the one hand, I think there is enormous continuity, Five Eyes relationship is valued greatly in Washington, and on the defense front, the administration recognizes the world as it is. On the other hand, I think there are new directions which the White House would like to push out into, which could cause for some friction between the US and the UK.
So there you have it. The phrase civilizational erasure is written directly into the national security strategy of the United States. This is a marked departure from previous administrations, which had taken a more globalist view and had favoured organisations like the UN or the EU as the venue in which to solve problems and drive human progress. This new, more populist paradigm does see these organisations as, in fact, ineffective at best, and quite often they're seen as the root cause of many of the economic, cultural and civilizational problems we're all having to confront now, because these problems have grown far too large and they can't possibly be ignored any longer. Now, is there anything to these charges of populism, that globalism has caused a lot of these problems? Well, if globalism had indeed delivered a lot of the economic and social security that it had promised, there would be no reason for populism to arise. But here it is, and we have to be honest, globalism has brought a lot of these problems on itself. Does populism have all the answers? Well, does anything. But at least we now know where it's all coming from and what the main ideological battle lines are going to be, probably at least for the next century. I hope it's been educational, and don't forget to like and subscribe to help new channels like this grow and spread the love a little bit and help people better understand what's going on in the world around them. And never ever forget this important thing: our ignorance is their power. So that's it from the nation state for this time, and I'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye.